Painted Black, a being of motivation, to do more, to be more, and to have higher expectations. A new standard of us, true representation that we can trust, standing against discrimination of all, Black, white, foreigners, gay, fat, small, insecure, or just lost. Painted Convos is an outlet for voices that aren't out yet. I want to give people a new aspect. I want to create a platform for those who deserve it, but that's not hot yet, where every perspective is needed for every topic. And although conversations get heated, no one gets mistreated, because this is an unjudgmental territory, and there's nothing but respect for everyone's story. Thanks for tuning in to Painted Convos presented by Painted Black. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Painted Convos, Episode 7, Culture Misappropriation. We'll be diving headfirst into the world of culture, tradition, and what makes each person and race different. We'll talk about money, we'll talk about trends, and we'll also talk about how we can benefit more from our culture and our trends. Thank you so much for tuning in to Painted Convos, Episode 7. Let's get started. Question 1, what is the true meaning of cultural misappropriation? Is it being abused, or is there really an existence of just somebody just doing something that's completely inappropriate?
I feel the term of culture misappropriation is that anytime another race looks to interpret another race's culture for financial gain, honestly, it's about money at the end of the day. So just to take something that another race has originally came up with a concept, whether we talking hair, music, or clothes, and kind of made it their own for financial gain. I think that would kind of be the title.
Okay.
I think it's more about business than anything else.
I say that cultural misappropriation is just, anytime you use someone else's culture for the wrong reason. Like, for example, when white people call each other nigga, or if Mexicans call each other nigga or something like that. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's a word that we've used in our culture, and we have, full knowledge of, the history of the word. And I feel like other cultures don't tend to, appreciate where we came from. So it's not the same if they use it for us to use it.
Well, let me say this, because I've heard, what if, a Black person says cracker, or somebody says a wetback? All of these things are offensive things. So I feel like we got to also remember that just because somebody is offending our culture, or we might be frequently offended, there's other ways and other cultures that can be offended by some of the things that's being said.
I think the difference in what you're saying is that Black people don't walk around calling each other cracker. I'm not going to call him a cracker. But for a white person to call another white person nigga, that's back on what he said as far as misappropriation, using it as if it applies to your culture, and it doesn't. So me and him I'm not going to call him a wetback. Like, it's like that.
I feel like with a lot of other races, what we do as Black people is a trend. It's a fad. So that's when it comes into cultural misappropriation, where what we do, like wearing our hair, is box braids, cornrows, how we dress, how we speak. You go to the hair store, buy bamboo earrings. For them, it's a fad, it's a trend. And like you said, they're making money off of it. So it's like, they're starting a new trend. We were doing this a long time ago. Twerking, we was doing this a long time ago as a means of rituals. So it's a fad to them, and they don't understand that. So it's ignorance at the end of the day.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the next question. Why is our culture the most profitable, and we have one of the highest buying powers in the nation, yet we receive the least amount of benefits from it?
If you take the first slave that was given a quarter, he probably didn't put it in his pocket. He probably walked through the neighborhood flicking his quarter in the air to let every other brother and sister know I got a quarter. So they understand from an economic perspective that we were a culture of people, a race of people who had no money for the longest period of time. You're talking over 400 years where a Black man didn't have a dollar, a quarter, or a penny to his name. So they understand that the value is, okay, let me give him 1,000 because he's not used to anything. So because we haven't had for so long, anytime we get something of value, we really don't understand what the value, true meaning of it is. I just came back from Mexico, and the pesos to American dollar is 16 pesos per American dollar. Why? Because they're not used to what money is really valued at. So because we have been on the downtrot for so long, they understand that. So it's like literally they sprinkle dollars to us. $100 million to play basketball is nothing in comparison to the billions that's being made. So it's not even a race war anymore. It's more economic to say, okay, in order for me to separate these group of people, I need to give him a little more money so he feels inferior to those that's not making as much money. So then the one that ain't making as much money is just trying to get where he at, now understanding that the one that's cutting the check is really the one that's in power.
So my input for this is really, we are just a profitable race. I think that people kind of see us as money. One of our most traditional things that I see from just our past is showboat, flashy. Even our music videos reflect this, our songs reflect this. We kind of look to our celebrities and see what they're wearing to see what we buy. So people know, these designers, they know, hey, I'm going to dress their people in this, and everybody's going to buy it. I think as a culture, we just are spenders, and I think that that's kind of what we had no choice to be, because we weren't unable to own, so we kind of got set up, like this. If we weren't going to be slaves, you're going to stay here and you're going to spend what you do make here. And I think that kind of built their, economy, and it kind of built the world that we live today, because that's just how it is. To have an entire race of somebody that's always going to buy something, you never can go wrong, right? And I feel like what they did was found out what we need and what we like, and capitalized it. Gave our people, our celebrities, they gave them mass exposure, because they're like, yo, these people are profitable. Like, I can really make a lot of money if I capitalize on these people. It's people that got lyrics you can't even put together a sentence. Like, it's just the worst music ever that I hear that is out right now. But I mean, they're getting so much exposure. They're wearing all of these name brand things, and they're setting the trends for our people.
I believe that we're the most profitable, man, because since we're set up in this nation to never actually be free, we spend all our money trying to obtain the things that represent freedom and wrap them around ourselves, because we ourselves won't be enough. And I believe that's why we spend so much more than everybody else. You get what I'm saying? Like, for example, I was looking through the projects today. I live in the projects. I was riding through the projects. It's all kind of challenges and BMWs and Audis and stuff parked next to that government housing. But, when I'm at work, I'm privileged enough to, work with, high-income people. Right. And as I go through their neighborhoods, it's a whole bunch of gas-saving cars and eco cars and hybrid cars and things like that. Things designed to save you money versus make you look good on the way to the club. Right. But that's what we spend our money on.
That's
you know
true.
what I'm saying? And for some reason, we don't mind not putting that money back in our own community and just going for self, pretty much. We want to be better than each other instead of making all of us better than everybody else.
Right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. There has always been a fuzzy line when it comes to people acting black, right? Is it disrespect or flattery? While terms like acting white is used as a form of showing overachievement, speaking proper, or doing wild and adventurous things. So when an individual acts black, what does that imply?
I'm kind of glad you asked this question, because before we can really understand the word, we must define the word, right? So when we talk about acting black, I seen this Anglo-Saxon young lady on the internet the other day, and they said she was acting black because she was popping her wrists and doing all this stuff and talking real ignorantly. But why is that acting black? Why is that just not being ignorant?
Because that's how they see us as a people now. Our reality shows, our music, this is what we put out to the world. If you want to talk about things that travel faster than anything, it's our music, it's social media, it's those things. And so if that's what we're highlighted and that's what we're doing every time we get the light, they think everybody acts like that.
Right, but then acting white is acting intelligently and properly. We even have to go back to our history and look at the way they used to shape us. When you looked at African Americans, everything was dark. When you said black, we were rapists. We were all these different demonic and demonstrative things. But when you said white, everything was right. So I think we have to understand our history and where we came from. And I love the fact Bro talked about history earlier. Just to take like 20 seconds. Before we can move forward, we must understand where we came from. We were enslaved for 300 to 400 years, right? We got free in 1835, 1865, and then came another period where we had to fight against Jim Crow laws. Right. That didn't end until about, 1965? So we've only strategically been free for about, 50 to 60 years? So this is clearly one of the only generations that is really growing up in true freedom. So we have to understand our history before we can move forward. I think that's why we're also as separated as people, because we have been pulled from our own culture. We don't even know what our own culture is.
I just want to say something real quick. I think that we as black people need to stop holding on to those labels of being ignorant and people automatically looking at us and being like, oh, they don't know how to speak. And they're going to automatically say something ignorant, or they're not going to tip me, or they're not going to do this or that. We need to get out of that mind frame, because I know you said social media travels, and that's the fastest way. And people, how you spoke about music, people are putting the most ignorant music that I have ever heard in my life out, and they're getting famous from it because they're doing ignorant stuff. So I just feel like if we come together and not hold on to that label of who's acting white or who's acting black, because I have family members who my little cousin only has white friends, only dated white guys. I mean, we don't look at her no different. I mean, white is white, black is black. We all people, so that's all.
I just wanted to piggyback off of the acting white. Like, I heard that a lot growing up. I was raised in Decatur, Georgia. And people would say, like, well, you don't sound like, you're from Decatur. And, like, I would tell them, like, I'm sorry, like, I have educated parents, like, that's why I sound the way I do. And, I mean, I hate to, say that, but, like, people would say, like, oh, like, you don't sound like the slang we use. And, you know what I mean?
It was always that. I feel like I heard you acting black older when I was older, but I heard you were trying to act white when I was a kid. In class, in classes, like, we were like, oh, you're doing too much, or oh, she's trying to do this. So when you do something well, or you're not getting in trouble like everyone else, y'all know everybody went through the stages of trying to fit in and what's cool and what's not cool. So that was just something that was said, and it got to the point where I went to a school with mixed, so I had white kids and black kids at my school. And they would even tell the white kids, man, you acting white. And so that was just like a thing that was said, and it was just like a notion where, as if you were saying, like, it's not really something that you to think about. And that's what's bad, because it's said unconsciously, and we don't even think about it. Go ahead.
The challenge for me is that as black individuals, we are our own judge. We're our worst judges. Yes. Because the conversations that we've all had, it's been us judging us. True. So if we're judging us, then why do we expect white society to look at us any differently? Exactly. So being educated has nothing to do with being white. It just means you have knowledge of self and something thereafter. Being ignorant has nothing to do with a race. So until we have an understanding unified to say, hey, sister, go get your education. Brother, go get your education. Why are you talking like that? You sound stupid. You don't sound black. You sound stupid. Now it's a catch-22, because when a white person thinks that he needs to shake my hand and twist it and turn it in order to speak, it's kind of like, okay, but you didn't do John that way when you walked into the door. Right. So why do you think you need to shake my hand in this way? Because you think you're trying to be down. But again, once we stop judging ourselves, then I think society would stop judging us, because there's not a lot of unity in our community in no way, shape, or form. That's why the divide and conquer has been able to take place based on the Willie Lynch letter that said, if you divide these people, they will no longer be able to be in power, because they're looking at each other before they even look at another race from a success perspective. So we need to look within ourselves and stop judging us if we want society to stop judging us.
And that's what I was pretty much going to say.
Pass him the mic, love.
It's just used as a tool to keep us divided amongst each other. Just saying you acting black, acting white, all that's just a ploy and a play on words. You got to look at the ultimate goal. What it's doing is basically tearing our community apart. Period. It's just that. It's just a ploy. And what he also said that I like is that we got to start dealing with our own issues instead of looking for somebody else from the outside to come in to help us. You got to dig within first and then address it as a unified community. He made a good point saying that this generation is the most free generation, but this is the most dumbed down generation, because they're glorifying drug users. They're on drugs. They just dumb down. They have the most wisdom. If you catch one of these young dudes and sit down and have a conversation with them, they have so much wisdom. but they geeked up. So that's the next step in to keep us divided and dumbed down as a people. That's what I'm saying. So I had to piggyback on that.
I agree.
I went to a majority white high school, and when I went to college, a lot of the white friends that I had in high school kind of went their own way when they joined their sororities and fraternities, and it kind of made me gravitate more towards the Black community at my school. And I went back home for the first time, and I had my Black friends tell me, oh, wow, after all these years, now you actually act Black. Like, well, that's crazy, because I feel like my skin has been the same color all this time. I've paid way too much for my education. My ancestors have fought way too hard for me to walk around and act like I don't have any common sense, period. It's not about acting Black or acting white. It's about having sense. I'm not going to walk around acting like I have no common sense. I think that being able to speak properly means that I have a great understanding of the English language, and I think that is a great accomplishment. I don't think it has anything to do with race. But when we glorify ignorance, and we all do it, we all repost these ignorant comments, we post our own ignorant comments, we involve ourselves in these ignorant conversations, we're fueling the fire, and we don't realize that we're doing it because it's so second nature to us at this point. But you have to kind of force yourself to get out of that and force yourself to not act Black or act white, but just act like Evan. Just period. I'm going to act like who I was meant to be. And I was meant to be Evan, the educated girl from Gwinnett County that went to school and got her education, period. Not knocking the next person that didn't do that, because you're that person that went their own route, and you have to live your best you, however that may turn out to be.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go to our next question. What's the difference between culture and traditions? Due to our past, do we have either? I mean, but here's the thing though. My thing is, do we have solids? You know what I'm saying? And I want you guys to understand the true definition of what tradition and culture is. Go ahead. Read this for me. Or, you know what, Ulu? Let me get you to read this definition for me.
Yeah, what's the difference between culture and traditions?
Okay, tradition.
Due to our past, do we have either? So,
Just read traditions. It's at the bottom.
traditions, the transmissions of customs or beliefs from generation to generation.
All right, so everyone knows that when someone dies, the homies pour out a little liquor, right? Whether it's a 40, some Hennessy.
I never did that for grandma.
Okay, well,
Never did
fellas
that
do
for my grandma.
Okay, the fellas do that around the way, correct?
Granny
All
didn't
right,
play
now,
that.
Thank you. If you take it back from an African culture perspective, it's a libation that the priests, when they would gather the families around, they would pour libations of juices out to their dead ancestors. So now the hood dudes didn't even realize that they were actually following an African tradition. So when we speak of traditions, pouring out for your dead homies actually started in Africa. It didn't start in Compton. It didn't start in Decatur. It started in Africa. It was just, a homage to those that passed prior to us.
I believe we're losing all our tradition and culture, and we're just letting social media and MTV and Housewives and things like that just kind of dictate how we act, man, and it's completely wrong. The reason we are just, cursed with this low self-esteem and not believing in ourselves is because, we allow people to tell us what our culture is, what our traditions are, and how we act. You get what I'm saying? We just go off the stereotypes. We never do our own research. We never, like he said, about the pouring out of the alcohol and things like that. I never would have looked that up. I would have just been like, oh, that's a Black thing. Simple as that, and that's just because of my ignorance. I never thought.
It's not, but it's not. It's because of your ignorance. You can say that, but I also feel like it's also a large percentage too, that we weren't taught that. They made us sit through school all these years and didn't tell us what our African ancestors did. They told us nothing. They told us that we were slaves. They told us that we was brought here, and that was that. They showed us our Black people on TV with flies flying around them. They never showed us nothing nice. They never showed us what a beautiful Africa looks like. They never showed kings and queens. They never showed us that. So when we thinking about tradition, did they bring over fried chicken and mashed potatoes? Like, how did that become our thing? It probably became our thing from limited resources or slavery or whatever. But as you know, like, remember they had the thing with Tiger Woods. They said that they served a soul food dish, and that was like a big thing at the time. It was a while ago, but they tried to make it seem like, you know, it was offensive to him, you know. And it's like, so that's what you guys feel like he would want to eat because he's a black guy. Let's serve that, and y'all ain't never served that before. And he doesn't even call himself black. He calls himself Black and Asian. No, Blasian. Blake-Alasian.
There's a lot of women that do
No, but here's the problem with that though. Like, you really believe that, and your father is a black man. Like, you reached a certain level to the point where you just disconnect yourself from that community, that whole sector in your life.
I blame his father.
But what is it that we can be connected to though? Like, even we don't even know what tribe we come from. As individuals, we lack knowledge. Yes. Period. We lack knowledge on culture and traditions. So if you don't even know what tribe, let's just say we all go back to Africa. Who we going with? Nigeria? Who we going with? We don't even know where to go.
Is embedded in your DNA. People again, do not look into self. You got to look into self. Everything is embedded to your DNA. Just like both of them said, people just started pouring out liquor. They just saw somebody do it. So that was part of their DNA. It's in you. You have a connection, but what it is that you just been mediated out, washed out to connect with yourself, and all that stuff will come forth. It's already in your DNA, and that has been scientifically proven. Right. So I don't know where I come from. A lot of, like, even in the United States, a lot of people think that the Indians over here were long hair, red people, but most of the Indians over here was black as us, and Aborigines. So I might not even be from Africa. I may be actually from America. So people don't understand that we were all over the globe. China, Japan, Australia, everywhere. We were melanated people everywhere. So, yeah, so she may not be from Hawaii. She may be from Mexico. You don't know, because we just all displaced. I'm just using that example. We are all displaced because we all migrated here. And like I said, we had it. It was already rich people here, and they came and just bamboozled everything. It was African people over here trading. They digging up stuff over there, finding things that African people already been over here. They finding stuff that people all the way up north done been over here. They finding stuff over here. But they hiding the culture and the tradition. They're hiding it because they don't want y'all to be aware of self.
I hear it.
All right. I just wanted to make a statement based on culture. All the clothes that we had as slaves were hand-me-downs, meaning the master and his wife gave it to us. And it probably didn't fit, because you got to think, the women were heavy waist shaped, the bottoms, the men well endowed. So the clothes were too small. So once as men, we began to buy our own stuff, we start wearing a little bigger and fuller, because we didn't want to accent. Because accenting your clothes when you were a slave, that's how they chose what type of job you would do based on your build. So from a culture perspective, the baggy clothes is actually something that blacks, we had freedom. We said, you know what? I don't want my physique to be who you see me when I come through the building. So I'm going to wear a baggier pair of jeans. I'm going to wear a baggier top, because I don't want my arms and everything to be is the first thing that you see, and that's how you're judging me. So from a culture perspective, the baggy image is something that we took, because when the clothes was given to us, we had no choice as to the size frame. So everything was too small. Look at all the slave pictures. They had knee-high stuff before it was capris, before it was popular. You know what I mean? So it wasn't that it was chosen that we wanted to wear tight-fitted clothing. We had no option. So from a culture perspective, we took it, we sold it up and made it fit who we are as a people.
Gotcha. I like that.
As far as the culture, to me, we are the culture. Like he was saying, we set the standard. Everything comes from the black. Everything is from the black. No matter what it is, down to nature, everything comes from the black. Even when you see flowers, they come from the black. So I feel like people look to black people. Whether, our culture is lost, but that comes from conditioning. We've lost it because we've been conditioned to lose it. And they are afraid of us learning it again, because they understand once they learn it, we own it. I call it God dust. It's melanin. Like, it's in us. It's tied to our DNA. It's never going to be lost. But if you condition to forget it, you are going to forget it until you remember just a little bit of it. Like you said, pouring out the liquor. You set your altar up to your ancestors or to your orishas or to whoever you pray to, whether it be God, Allah, whoever you pray to. It's still it's traditions, but you just don't understand it or you don't remember it. But once you start doing it, it kind of comes back to you.
It's not that I feel like some of the things come to us unconsciously, and I think that some of the things we just do just out of nature, and that's only because of, like what you said, could be genetics. But for the most part, we weren't taught it. And that's something that we need to let people realize, that we weren't taught our tradition. So when we get these feelings and these things, and when we do these rituals and these things that we do repeatedly, we need to take heed to that, take pride in it, and capitalize on it, and start selling our stuff to other people, because Lord knows other people are selling to us. Okay? Let's go ahead and go to the next question. All racial backgrounds have offered so many beautiful things that make up society today by sharing their culture, music, traditions, food, style, dance. It's like a window to their world. What would you classify as an African American tradition or cultural trait that the Black race should be the most proud of? Like, I want to hear the number one thing that Black people have done, or several things. But I don't want to hear a spill. I literally want to hear you just say, they did this, that, and the other. And we can count that as a cultural trait or a tradition.
When people get married, they jump the broom.
Okay. That was a Black tradition?
It's a Black tradition.
Okay.
Music.
It's an African tradition. Okay.
I say music because
Music?
whether we talking rock and roll, R&B, hip hop, jazz, it all started with us in the field trying to figure out how we gonna get the hell up out of here. So we started to blow, some words came out.
Started to sing.
Exactly.
We were singing in another
and then
language.
take it before that from the
Yes.
conga drums. So the music is embedded in our hearts. We have no choice. When a woman walks down the street, she's walking to a drum. You know what I mean? So that's what they admire. When the slave master seen her, he's like, oh, she's moving. So, again, the music actually has set the tone economically and spiritually.
I believe that. Now, that's
Inventing. Number one, inventing.
true. Inventing.
Most things that have been created in the world come from melanated people.
Ah, I like that.
Most things. Most things. Wrap your mind around that. Most things in the world was created by melanin people, and we have not got any credit for it. Any.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would say also food as well. Like our soul food is like untouchable. I think it's one of our great traditions and as relates to our culture as well. And also our funeral custom. Oftentimes people don't really pay attention to funerals, but in the Black families and the Black traditions, our funerals are like some of the most amazing and beautiful rituals that take place in America today.
I was gonna say we should be proud of all of the techniques that our Black women have come up to take care of their hair. I feel like nobody else could have done it.
That's right. You better give us some props, because we spend a lot of money on hair.
Strictly comb was designed by a Black woman.
This is true, Madam C.J. Walker. All right, so what I wanted to do with that question is I just wanted us to throw some things out there, things that we can be proud of, things that people might not have known, which I appreciate. And I think that it's just important to know. And I hope that question triggers you to Google. We are the most free generation. And the reason why I say we're free, not because we have equal opportunity, because clearly I don't believe in that, but I do believe we're free because we have Google and we have the means to research who we really were or who we are. So it's no excuse as to, oh, they didn't teach me type crap anymore, because at this point we have the means to research and find whatever we want. Literally whatever we want. I can see somebody hat and I'd be like, I need that hat. Where can I find it? And I could find that hat with not even seeing a logo or a brand. So I feel like we are the most freest generation when it comes to being able to research. At one point we couldn't read. We would be punished for reading. So I feel like we have definitely abused that. And I think that we definitely should take advantage of it. So I hope you guys research different traditions and cultural traits from the Black race so we can see what's going on, and I'm gonna start picking some up and doing them. Let's go to the next question. Why do you think Black people feel more offended about cultural misappropriation or insensitivity? Some would say slavery is in our past. There are many successful Black people in the world today. We've heard some of our own celebrities and athletes say some of the things that doesn't sit right with us, like Lil Wayne, all lives matter. We got Mike Vick and his hair comment. We have Stacey Dash, the Trump supporter. But do you think these people have forgot or they just no longer care? And let me explain this when I say this. Like Tiger Woods or like some of our other celebrities, like I've heard, I think it was, I don't want to brand his name, but he was on the Breakfast Club and he said that all his kids was mixed, so he can't really say Black Lives Matter. All he could say, and I think it was Fetty Wap. And then I have somebody else that was like, I don't really deal with Black Lives Matter, the whole situation, because I live in Beverly Hills. I think Travis Scott or the other one that looked just like him said that.
Nobody was screaming Black Lives, all lives matter until Black Lives
started like we had to have that
and
campaign.
My thing was that that's just another ploy to confuse us, because in a community, in a white community, polices are not gunning down people in the white community. In the Asian's not getting gunned down in the white community. In a white community, it's not a liquor store on every corner. There's not an athlete's foot on everything. Everything is happening in the Black community. That's why Black Lives Matter. And like my man said earlier, is that we got to start dealing with our own problems. So when we come up and saying Black Lives Matter, Lil Wayne got paid to say that. Mike Vick got paid to say that. That everybody got to say that, because those are people that they put in place for us to look up to. So they're saying that this person is in place. Hey, this is your homie. And he's saying all lives matter. But yet still 20 people got killed on camera. None of them got convicted. Nothing ever happened. And so I'm supposed to be okay with that. And that's the problem with the Black community, what I think is, though, because we are the only race of people that let people spit in our face, turn the cheek, slap us, turn the cheek, kill us, turn the cheek. We need more Malcolm X's instead of more marching and all that stuff. We need to be really aggressive about really setting our freedom, because really we still in some type of form of slavery. And until you really rise up and buck, you always gonna get shot on camera. What you gonna do? You gonna march 2 days and then be good?
I don't think I can just say they no longer forgot or they no longer care because of the statements they made. Because honestly, there was an earthquake in Mexico like a week ago. How many of y'all remember that? If it's not happening to you or your friends or your cousin or somebody that you saw that you feel like you can relate to, does it really matter to you? If it's not affecting you or the direct people around you, it's realistic. Is it right that we're like that? No. But is it real? Yes. So sometimes when you're not faced with something on a consistent basis, and it's not in your face on a consistent basis, because that's not what you're around, because you live in a different environment, it may not seem as bad to you because you've never been through it. Like I said, I grew up in a majority white area. So when I went to school the first time, when I went to college, I saw some things that I had only seen on TV before, to be real. And I had never been around it for real before, so it was new to me. It was different. It were things I would have never thought I had to worry about because I had never been exposed to it for real. It was problems I never had to deal with because of the environment I grew up in.
I think that I agree with you. If it's not, happening to someone personally, that's different, like an earthquake or weather or something like that. But I kind of feel like that just really came from our mentality. When slaves were free, not all slaves were free. It took time for every slave to be released. Okay, they didn't just open the doors and everybody was just set free. And I feel like it started then, because you have those that are still left behind, and we're okay with that. So we're like, I don't have to deal with him no more. I don't have to deal with being a slave anymore. I'm free now. I could, they still are going through this. This is what's happening with them. And although it's not much that they could have done about it, that mentality of a walk away and just being like, I'm okay, I think that kind of embedded in us, because even when we get out of the hood, what do? We move on and shine on elsewhere. We'll shine on our people, but we'll move on and be gone, right? So what I feel like that really instills is just like a whole perspective of not even necessarily crabs in a barrel, but just happy to be out, happy to be somebody, feeling like you are somebody because you're wrapped in these things that are expensive, or because you've seen these, you're able to date this woman, or you're able to do these things all of a sudden. And I don't think that they necessarily forgot. I think that they just want to disconnect themselves from it because it was hurtful. The struggle is real, and I feel like after you don't have to struggle no more, you kind of like, why would I go back and waddle in a struggle? And if we change our perspective of thinking like that, and we think, all right, so I don't have to struggle. I don't want my kids to have the means of maybe jeopardizing something that goes on in their life and not having somebody to help them out or pick them up. I'm going to do it to my community. We have so much money out here, celebrities, like our people are like our black men are majority in almost every sport. It's ridiculous how much money we have out here, but how much is that like coming back? They do camps and do centers, but if we really wanted to like build our business, we could. If our rappers put that money into our communities, like if every rapper put money into where they came from, like literally put money in it, not when it's a natural disaster, but money into the businesses. Oh, you own this, let me get you a building. I know the Asian Connect, I'll do that, I'll be your distributor type thing. Like start all the way up there type, so that when the money comes back, it circles and it's back into the black community. You get what I'm saying? Okay.
All right, 2 quick key points. The 3 names that we named is a house Negro mentality.
Right.
The house Negro prepares the home for the master and care more about the master's home than he does his own.
Exactly.
So we're looking for these brothers who've already crossed over financially and economically, that the master says, I'm going to separate you from the field Negro.
Right.
I'm going to give you anything that you want. So that way you're disconnected from the field Negro. You'll think you're better than. So I can't even judge them for being who they are, because they don't even understand that you're in the house. You no longer have an understanding of what it means to pick cotton anymore, because financially the master has taken care of you. So again, we can easily judge, but instead of judging, say, you know what, okay, you don't stand for us. We're okay with that. Right. But we're going to unite. The field Negroes are going to unite, and we're not even going to kill you when we get into the house. We're going to pull you to the side and say, you know, you f***ed up, right? Now, to your point though, the war isn't fought in the streets. It's an economic warfare, because we're outgunned and outmanned. The NRA is going to make sure that white America is supplied with every guns, tanks, and everything that they need. The war is fought economically, because we spend more money than any other culture. So once we begin, like Martin did, and boycott, like the bus, could you imagine if the MARTA system in Atlanta, if we stopped riding it, they would have no choice but to say, wait a minute, why ain't no brothers on because y'all killed a couple of people over on Bankhead. Wait a minute, somebody needs to pay. We're not making them pay their pockets. Okay, they say, why do you destroy your own community? What makes it ours? We don't own any businesses in that community. Nothing. It's basically a modern day concentration camp. Based on your economic value, you're going to live over there. Okay, cool. When we wild out, we're destroying everything around us, the CVS, the Walgreens, the gas station, the Asian beauty salon place, because we don't have any ownership. So the war is not fought in the streets. So all of the we shall comes and the riots, no. We need to have an understanding of who politically is paying to make sure that these laws are being passed, whether it's your Targets, your Walmarts, your Krogers, your Publix, all of these major corporations we still go shop with. The take a knee was cool, but what are we going to do as fans to support the brothers that took a knee? We're going to say, you know what? I ain't buying no jerseys. I ain't going to no sports bars. I ain't watching no games on pay-per-view, or none of that no more. So we keep putting it on them, but what are we doing at the house? Every Sunday you laid up with your Corona that you just went and bought from the Middle Eastern dude in the neighborhood who really don't care nothing about you. Okay. So the struggle isn't fought in the street, fellas. It's fought economically.
I agree, and we're gonna go ahead because that's a good that's a good little breezeway until our next question. Let's go ahead and get to our next and final. What is the real problem? Is it because black women have spent over $500 billion in black hair care? But how much of that has came back to the community? Or the fact that black men make up 70% of the NFL, but black people only make up to 2% of the ownership pool? Okay? Or is it because they take our trends and they're sold back to us for a higher price? Or when will we start reaping the benefits of what we spend? And when can it start being a part of what we do? You know, of course we know to start a business and support other black businesses. That's a known fact. We already know that. But here's the thing. When a black person or business gets money, what happens? They spend and they shop because they gotta look good. And our lack of soul ownership, that's why we become mainly a consumer culture. To me, I think that that's the strongest trait that we have as a race, is that we're consumers. If you put it out there and it's shiny and flashy, we're buying it. If you put it on the right person, we're buying it. And it doesn't matter. There's some cultures that don't even shop at other races. Like you have European clothes, you have all these different type of clothes. People will stick to their own, we don't care. The more foreign, the better. when it comes to clothing, when it comes to women, when it comes to anybody, the more we don't mind shopping with others. We're the most hesitant to shop with ourselves. We spend the most money looking at somebody that does not look like us every time. Because not even if you think about it, you're getting it from somebody who, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get my hair from you, girl, this and that and the other. She's getting her hair from somebody Asian across the way. Not saying that that's a problem, because what they did was they're smart. They've mastered. I'm going to supply the demand. What these people need, I got. Whatever you want, I got, right? That's pretty much what it is. And so a lot of times we, as black people, we have a hustle mentality. We feel like, yeah, we got this, you know what I'm saying? We born hustlers. No, we're not. Because if you was really born a hustler, you would be really selling things to people for a necessity. You would be investing in something completely different. People got to wipe their ass, excuse my French. So why don't we have any toilet paper companies? People die. Why are more people not in the funeral business? We got food and beverage out the galore. But my whole thing is, what we do is we rather spend more money in the club. We rather spend more money in the club. We rather look like we have it. We want people to be outside. Valet, don't park my car in the back, park my car in the front. There's an extra $60, I got it. I've seen it. Like, it's just that. You know what I'm saying? And that's just our trait. And nobody can erase that from us. Because our money and pretty much like papers and the numbers show that we are a consumer culture. Okay? I'm going to have to close it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. This concludes the show. Of course, we'll have several other convos. You guys aren't forced to leave right now. Probably like in 30, 40 minutes. No, just playing. But thank you guys so much, and give yourself a hand. So thank you guys so much at home for tuning in to Painted Convos, episode 7. That concludes our show of cultural misappropriation. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you were able to relate to somebody on the panel, and I hope that you take this information and do some research on your own. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Painted Convos. Thanks for tuning in. This is Painted Convos, episode 7. We have our artist, Mr. Hungry Hustle Curve. Check him out with That I Do. Give him a hand, guys.
Appreciate it, man. Hungry Hustle Curve, at Hungry Hustle Curve on Instagram, man. Follow the lane, man. Many lanes, man. Up with the vibe, man. No. Curve. I cannot depend on the sofa team. That shit just not in my pedigree. Funny how when you come up, niggas hold out their hand. I remember when you wasn't feeling me. Traded that 9 to 5 for a pencil and pad. Run to that bag like a marathon. I swear I love how the thighs slide into the jeans. I can never love her physically. They too emotional. Climbed up that total pole. Move out the topic. I'm chasing that protocol. Face a true basic. She's in search of echelon. I'm up and you sip off the bottom. Shit, I keep a boss. You can boss your life on. I done pimped them just finessing. I'm working. They tellin' I stay away from phony and fat. Stay to stay, switch some place, keep it 80s. Got it all out the money, off the drugs. Fell in love with the clean. That white baby Jesus, I put my little bottom on, that she don't believe me. No good, let her run with the pack, I'm a no-show 10 toes. I could never fold, I know they talking, I stick to the code. But I can't work hard for another man. That's just something that I won't do. Risk it all for a couple bands. Yeah, I might. That's just something that I won't, but I won't do. They gon' just be sitting the state and they want to. That's just something that I do. I live by the code, fuck you pay me. That's just something that I do. Work hard for another man. That's just something that I won't do. Risk it all for a couple bands. That's just something that I won't do. I ain't gon' just be sitting this daily. That's just something that I do. I live by the code, fuck you pay me. That's just something that I do. I got dependence and co-defendants. I can't sit with less than 4 opinion. Bring the pack down long division. Went from section 8 to subdivision. Watch out for the fetish, they love them indictments. I do not take bitches, that does not excite me. I'm first with no payroll like Tommy and Tommy. No swipers like Sammy who's sitting on comedy. Why would I settle for less? Give me a coupe on my wrist. Invest and go bury the rest. Keep me a stick when I bow. But I just bitch, I don't catch. So bitch want me go out of nest. I do won't feel a little bit. You work with your hands and my work's at the center. Made myself a boss and put on my film. Dipped in the sauce, now she want me my chicken. Running my plate while I coach all the bitches. Pimpin' was passed down from daddy. Work all my hoes off his features. If it ain't about the money, I can hit you. Work for a nigga, I can't do that either. Fill up my swisher with either jackhammer or silver gorilla. Medicated, trying to cultivate it. My persona gotta captivate it. Work hard for another man. That's just something that I won't do. Risk it all for a couple bands. That's just something that I won't do. My back on these beats and that's daily. That's just something that I do. I live by the code, fuck you pay me. That's just something that I do. That I do. That's just something that I won't do. Risk it all for a couple bands. That's just something that I won't do. My back on these beats and that's daily. That's just something that I won't do. I live by the code, fuck you pay me. That's just something that I won't do. That I won't do. That I won't do. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the support, man. Don't forget to roll more gas, man. Good pressure and nothing.
I guess that's where you can find him. Can you come state your Instagram clearly so that people can really find you and find your music? Because I heard from people say they like your music. I mean, you got to show.
But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Hungry Hustle Curd, man. KERD Curd, man. That's where we got it from, man. Fuck with the wave, the campaign, man. Everything going up, way up, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Penny Convos conclusion. It's a wrap.